Welcome back. I'm Ferdi Serim, joined by my good friend of 2 decades, Rita Oates. I know we were childhood friends.
That's
we
right.
went to 6th grade together, and
Or fourth.
or 4th, or something like that. And our topic today is communication and collaboration. And I'm really glad to have Rita here because of the people that I know in this field, the one who's had the deepest, longest, richest experience in terms of having people communicate and collaborate is Rita. And this goes back to days from an early book. This is a book that was done called From Computers to Community that I wrote for first class back many, many years ago. And Rita was involved with that and since has become involved with EPALS, which is one of the largest, if not the largest, community of teachers and students doing projects globally. And since our entire approach is project-based learning using core subject standard topics to meet the ISTE nets, and this communication and collaboration being the second one of them, it seems like a very rich opportunity for discussion. So just to refresh your memory, as you see on the screen to our side, you're able to see the same thing that we're looking at, and that is that the students are going to use digital media and environments to communicate and work collaboratively, including at a distance, to support individual learning and contribute to the learning of others. That's a great goal, but it's tricky to do, isn't it?
It is.
It's a little bit tricky to get people to do it. And so the 4 areas that we're looking at again are interacting and collaborating, communicating information and ideas, developing cultural understandings. When I had to create these projects, there weren't a lot of places I could go to find resources for you to be able to do it. And you'll see that there are EPALS projects peppered throughout this entire thing. So that's why I'm really glad to have as the architect and prime mover of much of that work, certainly the midwife of that work, to have Rita here with us. So just on the outset, what are your thoughts about the power of communication and collaboration for teachers that, as you've worked with them right now, what's the good news for the teachers out here who are going to start working on those skills?
Well, the good news is that authentic communication is both engaging for kids, so they actually want to be involved, want to do this, and it's also enriching. If you think about 21st century skills being asking deep questions and thinking beyond what's in the textbook, communicating and collaborating with students other places is something that's very, very powerful to do that. And if I'm just reading my textbook and memorizing facts versus what if I ask somebody who lives there in that other country what it's really like there, or how is it different to have January be the time when you're dealing with the sun because and sunscreen because you live in South Africa in a very different place than the United States. These are all things that can be so much more powerful and so much more authentic. I also think that when we have students doing authentic collaboration, communication, they're using language in powerful ways and also consuming language in powerful ways. So if, for example, I have a group of 4th graders in the US who are communicating with 4th grade age students in Italy, they may be learning in Italy English as their 3rd language, while in America we're still just teaching English. But those children in Italy are using words that our children may not know in English, and so they will be challenged to learn new words and new concepts along with that communication. And how much more powerful is that than one more worksheet or one more drill? And I think that engagement and curiosity and building relationships is just really, really important.
That idea of bringing the students out into the world and bringing the world into the classroom is one of the goals of the Partnership for 21st Century Skills that they talk about all the time. And again, it's a great idea that makes us all feel warm inside until we think about maybe, wow, I'm going to actually have to do this with my kids. How am I going to organize it? How am I going to prepare for it? Along the way, and with what you see going on right now, what confidence building tips can you give our folks out here who are going to be embarking on this type of activity?
That's a really great question. And what we find, if I go into a conference and I ask 60 teachers, how many of you collaborate with a classroom in another country? I'll get 1, maybe 2 hands. I'll say, where did you find the person you collaborate with? Oh, that teacher used to teach in our school, or it's my brother-in-law, or it's somebody that used to live across the street from me. And so it's really hard to find collaborators. One of the things that EPALS does is by providing a community of teachers, of 600,000 teachers in 200 different countries, who are identifiable as I'm teaching this grade, I'm teaching this subject, I'm teaching in these concept areas, make it much easier to find that match that can be the classroom to pair up with, and make it finding similar interests and similar teaching needs. Beyond that, EPALS also offers projects, and they're kind of a cake mix approach. In other words, it's open the box, add water, stir and bake, and you're going to have a pretty good cake. It's a good way to get started. When you get to be more experienced with with project-based education, you can certainly add a lot of other things to it. But taking a project, for example, our The Way We Are project, which is the single most popular one we have, is a great way to open up the cultural understanding of another country. Where do you live? Where do you go to school? How do you get to school? Where do you eat lunch? Where does the water that you drink in school come from? What's your neighborhood like? What are your teachers like? What do you do after school? And seeing pictures of those, hearing those stories that might be told either in text or they might be in a podcast to be shared with other students. How rich is that? How engaging to see how totally different life is some places, and maybe very, very similar to us in others. One of my favorites is two first grade classes. One was in Wisconsin and one was in China. The class in China was an English as a second language class, and they wanted to share what's your favorite thing to eat from the school lunch, and what's your favorite thing to eat out of school. And when the kids in Wisconsin said fried cheese curds, the children in China had absolutely no clue even what cheese was, much less fried cheese. So there can be some really interesting exchanges on that level, along with things that are much more powerful. I'd say the most important thing is to look for something that's got a definition in terms of how much effort and over how much time. So is it going to be a 4 or 5 week project? Will we exchange 4 or 5 emails? Will we do a live video conference? Will we collect data about each other's classrooms and share that data? Will it be our 2 classrooms, or will we involve multiple classrooms? All of those are questions that if you answer them before you start, that can help you in having a successful project and knowing it doesn't have to go on forever. I'd also suggest that for a very simple beginning, it might be to take something, and I'll take social studies or geography, let's say, from 6th grade as an example. If you're teaching geography and you've got the unit on Africa, how many teachers have had students do reports? You do the report on Morocco, you do the report on Algeria, you do the report on Egypt. What if instead of that, the students were going beyond the report, just reading what's in the book, and went out and looked for information, maybe first on the internet and then from real people there, and wrote questions to people in another place? It doesn't have to be a long-term collaboration. It could be a one-time thing where we've got 12 things we'd like to know about life where you are, and there's 5 classrooms we're sending those questions to that can be answered. And so that could be a very powerful way. Now, the 4 students in the Morocco group have information to report back from real students in Morocco and real pictures of life today in Morocco. And that's a whole lot better than students copying something out of an encyclopedia or copying something off the internet and turning that in as a report. How much more wonderful to be able to have stories from the real people who are living there. I think that's very engaging for kids.
Absolutely. And you know, it's interesting, Rita, I think you may find this interesting. As I looked at the task of putting this together with 84 activities that the partnership had in 4 different subject areas, I didn't end up pigeonholing things that, the EPALS is just going to go in NETS 2 for communication and collaboration. I found that one of the only ways to do some of the math projects for research was to link with another classroom, which again requires that relationship to be in place. One of the only ways to do the creativity and innovation about creating new products and multimedia things was to have those links with other places. When we start looking at digital citizenship and being a digital, what that means to function in the world ethically and to be able to benefit our communities, even in terms of where people from our communities have come from and talking to folks who are from the homeland or whatever you want to call it, where their original source. I mean, I'm a person who is of Turkish background, and I've never been to Turkey. I'm going to go for the first time this summer, finally. And so making those connections is very, very huge. I think what I learned in terms of looking at the work of the projects that you all have built is that they go beyond those particular boundaries. They interweave themselves between it. So if my understanding is correct, anyone can join an EPALS project and begin learning it independent of this course. But if people in this course were to do it, it would almost have a double benefit.
That's absolutely correct. And we do have a variety of projects. Many of them weave together multiple different disciplines and multiple different levels of learning. We do not have them by grade level because what we found is teachers will adapt either up or down. We do have additional things we suggest. There might be books, there might be additional websites, other extensions and activities if teachers want to take the project-based learning farther. And we do include rubrics, both for judging the emails that students write and also the rubrics for the projects themselves.
Well, this is really great. I want to thank you so much for giving your time, for everything you've done in the last 20 years, but especially in the last 20 minutes here. Thank you so much, Rita. We're all very grateful. And thank you. You have a lot of great stuff to explore now in the next activities that we're going to do.
Thank you.